Every religion on earth tells a different story, different gods, different rules, different afterlives, different rituals, prayers, temples, and punishments. On the surface, they look like they have almost nothing in common, but underneath all of them is the same thing, and that thing is not faith. It is not community. It is not comfort in the face of death. Those came later. The thing underneath every religion that has ever existed is something far older and far stranger. It is a cognitive ability. A specific quirk of the human brain that no other animal on earth shares. God was not invented by priests. God was not invented by kings. God was invented by the same mental machinery that lets you feel guilty about something you have not done yet. Go back 300,000 years. A small group of humans is gathered around a fire somewhere in East Africa. They are anatomically identical to you. Same brain, same nervous system, same capacity for language. But they believe in nothing supernatural. No gods, no spirits, no afterlife. The cognitive tools that would eventually produce religion exist in their skulls, but the trigger has not yet fired. What changed? The leading theory in cognitive science is not what most people expect. It was not a search for meaning. It was not fear of death. It was something much more mundane and much more powerful. It was the ability to think about other minds. Psychologists call it theory of mind. The capacity to model what another person is thinking, feeling, wanting, and intending. To hold a mental simulation of someone else's inner world running alongside your own. You do it constantly without noticing. When you wonder if your friend is angry with you, when you try to predict what your boss will say, when you watch a film and feel something because of what a fictional character is experiencing. No other animal does this at human scale. Chimpanzees show early traces of it, but the full recursive depth of human theory of mind, the ability to think about what someone thinks about what someone else thinks, is unique to us. And here is what cognitive scientists discovered. The same mental machinery that models other human minds can also model minds that are not human at all. The anthropologist Pascal Boyer spent decades studying how religious concepts form across cultures. What he found was striking. Religious agents, gods, spirits, ancestors, are not random inventions. They follow a specific pattern. They are almost always beings with full mental lives. They have intentions. They have knowledge. They have desires. They notice what you do. They care about what you do. They remember what you did. They are, in other words, exactly what theory of mind is built to model. Boyer called them minimally counterintuitive agents. They violate exactly one or two basic expectations. They are invisible, or they cannot die, or they know everything, but in every other way they behave exactly like a person. They want things. They judge things. They react to things. Your brain, which evolved to model the minds of other humans, barely has to stretch at all to model a mind like this. A god is not a radical departure from human cognition. A god is what human cognition produces when it runs on an agent that is not physically present. There is a second piece, and it might be even more important. Somewhere around 70,000 years ago, something happened in the archaeological record that researchers call the cognitive revolution. Symbolic behavior explodes. Cave paintings, beads, burial sites with grave goods, evidence of ritual, all at roughly the same moment across multiple populations. What changed is that humans started treating the dead as if they still had minds. Burial with grave goods, tools, food, pigment only makes sense if the person doing the burying believes the dead person will still need things, will still want things, will still be capable of experience. The buried person has left the physical world. But in the mind of the mourner, their inner life continues. This is not comfort. This is theory of mind running on someone who is no longer there. And once your brain can model the mind of an absent person, it is a very short step to modeling minds that were never physically present at all. The dead do not disappear from the social group. They become the first supernatural agents, the first invisible beings with intentions and knowledge and the ability to affect the living. Every ancestor cult, every ghost story, every prayer directed at someone who has died traces back to the same cognitive moment, the moment a grieving human refused to let a mind go dark. The third piece is agency detection. And this is where it gets strange. Your brain is wired to detect agents, things with minds and intentions, in the environment. And it is wired to err on the side of overdetection rather than underdetection. The cost of missing a predator is death. The cost of mistaking a rustling bush for a predator is a brief fright. Evolution ruthlessly selects for the brain that sees agents everywhere. Researchers call this the hyperactive agency detection device. It is why humans see faces in clouds, intention in weather, purpose in natural disasters. A flood is not just water, it is a punishment. A drought is not just an absence of rain, it is a message. The world, to a brain built this way, is not a collection of mindless forces, it is populated by agents. Things that want, things that act, things that can be negotiated with. And the moment you have a world full of invisible agents with intentions, you have the basic architecture of every religion that has ever existed. The social peace locked it in. Ara Norenzayan at the University of British Columbia spent years studying what he calls big gods. Gods that are not just present but morally watchful. Gods that care specifically about whether you are cooperating, sharing, keeping your promises, treating strangers fairly. His argument is precise. Small-scale societies, bands of 30 or 40 people, do not need moralizing gods. Everyone knows everyone. Reputation does the work. You cooperate because you will see these people again tomorrow. Defection is immediately visible and immediately punished. But as society scaled up, that enforcement mechanism broke down. Strangers interacting with strangers. Nobody watching. Nobody keeping track. A God who sees everything solves this problem completely. If you believe that an all-knowing agent is watching and judging your behavior at all times, you behave differently when no one else is around. Studies consistently show that even subtle reminders of being watched increase cooperative behavior. A poster of eyes in a room where people pay for coffee on an honor system increases payment rates significantly. The watching does not have to be real. The belief that something is watching is enough. Norenzayan calls this the big God hypothesis. Moralizing gods did not emerge because humans were spiritually enlightened. They emerged because large-scale human cooperation is cognitively impossible without some mechanism for enforcement. And an omniscient moralizing God is the most powerful enforcement mechanism the human brain has ever produced. Put it all together and the picture becomes clear. 3 cognitive quirks, each one selected for completely unrelated reasons. Theory of mind, which evolved to track other humans. Hyperactive agency detection, which evolved to spot predators. And the refusal to let absent minds go dark, which evolved out of social bonding so deep that death could not immediately break it. None of these evolved for religion. None of them had anything to do with the supernatural. They were all solving completely different problems in a completely different world, and then they collided. In a species social enough to track hundreds of minds simultaneously. In a species imaginative enough to run those minds forward and backward through time. In a species already primed to see intention everywhere it looked. The result was inevitable. Invisible agents with minds and intentions and moral authority. Watching, remembering, judging. The gods did not come down from somewhere. They were assembled, piece by piece, from the architecture of a mind that was trying to do something else entirely. This does not make religion false. That is a different question and a different conversation. What it does is something more interesting. It makes religion legible. It explains why every human culture independently arrived at supernatural agents with mental lives. Why gods across every tradition care about human behavior rather than human geology or human weather patterns. Why the dead feel present rather than absent. Why the universe feels watched. It is not because these things are true or false. It is because the human brain is built in a specific way. And a brain built this way, dropped into a universe it does not fully understand, will produce certain outputs with the reliability of physics. Religion is one of them. The Hadza in Tanzania have spirits. The ancient Greeks had gods who bickered like family. The monotheistic traditions have a single mind so vast it contains everything. The details differ across every culture that has ever existed. But the structure is the same, an agent, with a mind, watching. That structure did not come from revelation. It did not come from tradition. It did not come from fear. It came from the same piece of neural machinery you used this morning to wonder what someone else was thinking. You have been running God-shaped simulations your entire life. Every human who has ever lived has run them. The machinery was already there, built for something else entirely, waiting for a mind complex enough to turn it on itself. And somewhere around 70,000 years ago, in a species that had just learned to bury its dead and paint the walls of caves and string shells together into necklaces, it did.